Hey guys, it's your boy Nick. Today's video features some hot takes, and I'm not feeling great, but I wanted to make a video anyway. Shout out to my patrons, cause y'all are my babies and I love you. And this is also with a new editor, so I'm really excited about how this is gonna go and being able to make some more videos even through school. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, throughout the fandom, bewares are rampant, both against customers, buyers, content creators, and just casual consumers. While many of these are valid, there are a lot of that I see that are honestly just to start drama. So it all started when I made the Liquid Sunshine video that really was pretty popular, I think. I had a few DMs of people actually wanting me to make videos addressing other people that they had bewares against or that they heard hearsay and things like that. Some ranged from like art scams to harassment to some actually really serious claims. However, a lot of these I actually had to dismiss. The majority of these bewares were mostly composed of DMs, hearsay, and things that really just didn't add up. Like, two friends would be talking about the accused, and that was proof, I guess. I actually had one person who was really offended when I said I wouldn't cover the story unless I actually talked to that other person because it clearly needed their input on it. But here's the thing. Cancel culture is super rampant. And see, internet drama is really hard for me because I don't see all the time how people really get in that situation, but I'm also a really low stress person. Like, yes, art scams, you're asking to be canceled because that's literally a form of theft. I've seen it range from you openly talk about your affiliations and beliefs to something as small as, well, you like this person's comment and that person said something controversial 10 years ago, so now you're blocked. Like, geez, man. But I want to make some general comments in regard to the cancel culture and have you ask 3 main questions before you post a beware on someone or believe a beware on someone else. But at the same time, making this video itself was pretty hard because I don't at all want to invalidate genuine bewares or make you question the validity of clear, concise evidence against someone who actually deserves it. Let's get started. So, is it fit for a beware, or does it fit my narrative? I see this one a lot in a lot of bewares. Many will include parts of a conversation, just the most damning parts, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't really read these that often or take them all that seriously unless they're compiled with other evidence. Unless it's like actually damning things. Because honestly, screenshots can be very easily faked, unfortunately, and I've seen it happen a lot. And the conversation's been cropped, and the DMs were deleted, and so they can't find it. It's just really coincidental a lot of the times. A way to improve this, and I want to stress this until it becomes a commonplace. Download a screen recorder and show yourself actually scrolling through the conversation and then clicking on that person's username to prove it's from that actual profile. It's a useful thing that could literally give validity to so many people's claims by proving that the screenshots are not fake and they're actually from the correct account. Like, I don't know why that's not a more common thing, but I mean, you know. And another instance is when a person has done or said something years ago, sometimes upwards of like 10 years ago. Perhaps they said something that was offensive, that they really haven't echoed since, or drawn something that they really regret. And I'm not saying that these aren't offenses, but I think that we need to start thinking more critically on what actually warrants a beware. There are so many cases where people have done questionable things a very, very long time ago and apologized for their actions, and yet they're still villainized. Now, I'm not saying that these can always be forgiven, nor that their apology is genuine. But I think there are certain times where the person they were and the person they are so far apart that making the connection between them discredits their ability to change and grow as a person. Judge the situation for yourself, and if you can only see the situation as black and white, try to make sure you're not the one painting it that way. Number 2, is this fit for a beware or is this personal? The Lupus Vulpus situation has blown up, as it probably rightfully should. She's a really big creator and said some pretty controversial things. And it's mostly for transphobia and a lot of other things. And while yes, she is transphobic, that is clear as day. There was a certain part of the Beware document that I didn't feel comfortable with. So on the Lupus Vulpus Beware page, we actually see a personal fallout between 2 friends. It got messy quickly, and it started leading to mentions of mental illness, self-harm, and even suicide attempts. And they were just clearly posted on a Beware for everyone to see. Now, I'm not justifying Lupus's behavior in any regard, but the personal situation and fallout of things weren't something that I thought really needed to be shared because they're not relevant. They were personal, and yes, they can be considered emotionally manipulative as stated in the Beware, but that isn't the reason for the Beware. In a claim about being transphobic and racist, bringing up a fallout between these two people really just didn't sit right with me. If I had a really deep argument with my best friend and someone makes a Beware about me, I don't know, like stealing the Declaration of Independence, how does our conversation add to this? Just because her and I had an argument. The major claim of a Beware should be supported by all the facts presented. Someone divulging about their mental health and personal situation should only be disclosed if it has a direct correlation to their business practices or what the Beware. Beyond that, there's also situations where customers get Bewares on them. And sometimes this is for having refunds or personal problems, which really inconveniences most sellers. And in most cases, blacklisting is completely understandable. And if a person filed like a wrongful chargeback and like just took their money back, then yes, put a Beware on them, they are bad. But in general, if someone got into a financial bind and they need their money back, while it was super irresponsible on their part to commission art, I don't necessarily think it's something to put a Beware on unless they're actually stealing the art that they're not paying for. That's just personal opinion. So here's number 3. Is it fit for a Beware or is it a legal dispute? A good portion of Bewares are in regards to business practices, as the fandom is art-based. Buying, selling, trading, and creating art is what drives our economy and fandom forward. So a buyer or seller in some way scams someone, then a Beware is sure to be made because it's wrong. However, there are some serious allegations made every single day that while they do, of course, warrant a Beware, more often than not, they don't even call for legal action. And I'm talking about the great big bads here. Grooming, abuse, being a map, being a zoo. Like, I get so upset when I see a Beware on them because sooner than say, hey, we need to charge this person, we need to get this person investigated or anything reasonable, just make sure you block and unfollow them. Like, what? You need to be asking for legit legal support and for people to file charges and things like that. When you make a Beware, yes, you are bringing to light that this is important, but if you're not actually calling for legal action when it's deserved, it completely minimizes the situation, honestly, at least to me. Like, you need to ask yourself, is there any legal remedy for this? Has a legal remedy been sought out? If someone scams thousands of dollars from you, you should take them to court, or at least try to take them to court, or ask for financial aid to the people who are affected. I think that's just something that just makes sense to me. And so when I do see this happen, it makes it feel like it's almost a joke. Like, oh, you're gonna call this person out for being the most heinous thing you can be, but the most that you want people to do is just make sure they unfollow them. So without proper calls to action, these Bewares just genuinely, like, where people could genuinely be exploited or hurt, like, you need to actually try and do something, I think. And I know that that is a big ask, but ultimately I think that we need more accountability. But at the end, I really do think that we need more accountability, and we need people just genuinely to have better morals and also understand what's truly wrong. All Bewares warrant a certain amount of criticism as well as skepticism. We have gotten to a point where one person's DMs are enough to cancel a person's entire account and send waves of hate their way. And ultimately, I don't want to downplay the severity of many major claims. But at the same time, there's not a single sketchy DM that can't be verified. Like, asking for proof doesn't mean that you're victim blaming. Criticizing validity where it should be criticized isn't rude or unjust. Some claims really need it. If you're going to call someone the worst of the worst things, you need to be able to have some solid ass evidence. But I get this might be controversial. And in some way, I want to emphasize I don't mean to invalidate anyone. And this is mostly my opinion, because I'm honestly starting to see some Bewares that are worrying on a different way, in some very unfit topics. I recently saw one for a maker who was having a hard time admitting that they weren't actually vegan and did it for clout. And people wanted to basically cancel them because they refused to say, yes, I'm a meat eater. Like, it's starting to get kind of worrisome what people think someone should be canceled for. There was even something where someone drew, I think when they were like 14, they drew some pretty messed up shit, but they're 27 now. And someone went that far into their history to try and find that. And it's really concerning to me, just because taking their efficacy and ability to change away from them and apologize, and they haven't posted anything like that in years. They haven't echoed any of that. They've actually supported the fandom. They've supported LGBT, Black Lives Matter, and they're a genuinely good person. Just because they messed up once, we have to be able to justify or to be able to understand that people are people. And don't get me wrong, there are some bewares that need to be made. There are some people who are bad. But ultimately, I think we need to start understanding what makes somebody a bad person and how far do they have to go. We need to understand what isn't fit for a beware. But honestly, like I said, looking at both sides doesn't mean that the information isn't conclusive. It just means that you're mature enough to talk to somebody and to get the information from both sides. Even if all the evidence points against them, and you know whatever they say is going to be a lie, it's going to be false, it's my personal belief system that you still need to hear their side. Even if you don't want to believe them, if you know you're not going to believe them, even if you know that at the end of the day they are the wrongest and worst person alive, they still have the right to talk and say their piece. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to think they're a good person, and you don't have to believe anything they say. But ultimately, I think that we just need more critical thinking in this fandom sometimes. But hell, you know what? I might have totally missed the mark here, but please feel free to share your opinion in the comments. I love being able to have a genuine conversation with you guys and hear what you guys have to say. Even if your opinion is different from mine, it's really interesting. I had some people who commented that my Sparky Buds video was offensive and hate speech, and I thought that was an interesting take. I, at the end of the day, am just a person. I'm not, super cute and fluffy animal dog all day. I wish I was, but goddamn, I'm not. I'm just a person, and I'm allowed to have opinions, and I'm allowed to have wrong opinions, and I'm also allowed to grow and change as a person. I said and did things when I was 12 that I would never do now. And if someone brought up the stupid lies I would tell my friends when I was 12 and they brought them up now, like, people would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But I'm an adult now and I would never do those things. And I think we need to understand that sometimes people are capable of change and not every beware is fit for a beware. But as always, this has been Nick, and thank you for listening to my awful ramblings, and I love you, and keep it simple.